Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. Earlier this week, rumors surfaced that Roman Reigns' cousin has signed with WWE. Wrestling legend Rikishi has officially confirmed the news of Lance Anoa'i joining the Stamford-based promotion. Lance Anoa'i is a third-generation wrestler, son of Samu, and grandson of late WWE Hall of Famer Afa Anoa'i. The 32-year-old performer has spent 14 years grinding on the independents, working for promotions like MLW, where he was a member of the Samoan SWAT team led by Jacob Fatu. Lance was let go by Major League Wrestling late last year. Fightful recently learned that Lance Anoa'i signed with WWE this summer. However, he has been dealing with an undisclosed injury and is unlikely to get cleared soon. This is probably why the creative team has no imminent plans for him, whether on NXT or the main roster. A few hours ago, Rikishi took to his official Facebook handle to congratulate his nephew on signing with WWE. Another drop of blood, your turn, nephew Lance. You earned your spot. Hashtag Lance Anoa'i, hashtag smarts, hashtag he gets it, he said. Lance Anoa'i has joined Hikuleo but has yet to make his WWE debut. But unlike Hikuleo, he has wrestled in the Stamford-based promotion before. He worked as an enhancement talent quite a few times, with his most memorable outing coming off against Shane McMahon on the May 27, 2019 edition of Monday Night Raw. That night, Roman Reigns came to the aid of his cousin after the post-match beatdown from Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. It will be interesting to see if the two cousins will reunite amid the Bloodline Civil War. What's next for Roman Reigns in WWE? The OG Bloodline is back. Roman Reigns and Jimmy USO kicked off Friday Night SmackDown last night, but were interrupted by Jey USO, who wanted the original Tribal Chief to hash things out with Sami Zayn. The Canadian wrestler confronted Reigns and clarified that his kick to the OTC was accidental. Zayn asked Roman to apologize to Jey, but the head of the table said he felt sorry for letting the YEET master waste his time. This forced Sami Zayn to walk out on the OG Bloodline. Later in the show, Roman Reigns confronted Solo Sikoa during an undisputed Tribal Chief acknowledgement ceremony. As expected, the original Tribal Chief refused to acknowledge the Street Champion, which ignited a brawl between them, leading to the Usos and Sami Zayn helping Roman Reigns fend off the Solo Sikoa-led Bloodline. The show ended with the OG Bloodline members standing tall and raising the wands. In a world where rumors swirl like a whirlwind and speculation runs rampant, certain moments can change the course of history. Rikishi, the proud Samoan wrestling legend, had always been a beacon of strength, pride, and familial loyalty. But in an exclusive interview, the big man himself dropped a bombshell that shocked the wrestling world. A family member of Roman Reigns, one of the most dominant figures in WWE history, had secretly returned to the company 5 years after their last match. The revelation came during an emotional conversation on a podcast dedicated to the Samoan wrestling legacy. Rikishi, whose own illustrious career has been intertwined with the history of the Anoa'i family, shared intimate details about a hidden return that no one could have predicted. 5 years ago, this person made a decision to step away from the ring. There were reasons, personal reasons, that they needed time to find themselves, Rikishi began, his voice filled with a mix of pride and nostalgia. But today, I'm proud to say that they've come back home to WWE, and the family legacy is stronger than ever. The shockwaves from this statement reverberated across the WWE universe. Fans who had been clamoring for a major surprise were stunned, and the speculation began almost immediately. Which family member of Roman Reigns was it? Was it someone fans had already seen on WWE programming, or had they been completely forgotten, hidden in plain sight for all these years? The return of a forgotten superstar for many fans, the notion of a Samoan wrestler returning to the squared circle after years away seemed impossible. Yet, the Samoan dynasty has always been filled with unexpected twists. From legends like The Rock and Yokozuna to the rise of Roman Reigns and the Usos, the Anoa'i family has produced some of the most gifted and charismatic athletes in professional wrestling. The world speculation reached a fever pitch when Rikishi's words began to sink in. Who among the esteemed family had taken a step back from wrestling? Could it have been someone like Umaga, whose tragic passing in 2009 left a void in the Samoan heritage of WWE? Or perhaps it was someone who had slipped under the radar entirely? But Rikishi's cryptic comments only added fuel to the fire. He dropped more hints, but stopped short of revealing names. When the time is right, all will be revealed, he teased, creating an air of mystery that left fans buzzing with anticipation. The Anoa'i dynasty, the Anoa'i family's wrestling legacy, is undeniably one of the most respected in the industry. Rikishi, Roman Reigns, and the Usos are just the latest generation in a long line of wrestling icons, but they were not the first to step into the ring. Before them, the Samoan dynasty boasted a rich history, including Afa and Sikoa, the Wild Samoans, who became WWE Hall of Famers. The family has produced some of the best in-ring talent ever seen on a WWE stage. Their combination of athleticism, strength, and charisma is unparalleled, with each generation of the Anoa'i family leaving an indelible mark on the business. Rikishi himself, a multi-time tag team champion, was known for his massive size, unorthodox wrestling style, and memorable moments, including his iconic stink face move. He also spent years in the shadow of his family's legacy, balancing both his personal and professional life while maintaining his position as one of WWE's top superstars. Roman Reigns, the current head of the table and the WWE Universal Champion, has become the face of the modern WWE, his dominance unmatched since he adopted his tribal chief persona. But as much as Reigns has established himself as the leader of his family, fans have always speculated about the possibility of other Anoa'i family members returning to the squared circle. And now, 5 years after their last match, one of them was coming back. A family secret. Rikishi's cryptic admission about a family member returning to WWE wasn't just about a wrestler coming back into the fold. It was about the continuity of a legacy that spanned decades. The idea that someone had quietly rejoined the WWE fold after taking time away made the announcement even more monumental. Rumors had swirled over the years about a potential return, with some speculating about the mysterious absence of certain stars in the Anoa'i family. Could it be the long-awaited return of Roman Reigns' cousin, the powerhouse known as Tamina Snuka? Or perhaps a relative from the past, like Solo Fafatu Jr., the son of legendary wrestler Sikoa, who had once made a mark in WWE before retreating into a quieter life. But the clues Rikishi left hinted at someone whose time in the ring had come to a pause for personal reasons. The fact that they had returned after a long break spoke volumes about how the family was united, not just by blood but by the very essence of what WWE represents: family, tradition, and resilience. A family reunited. What stood out most in Rikishi's interview was his emphasis on how this return was about more than just an individual. It was about the Anoa'i family reuniting in a way that no one had expected. Rikishi spoke of the strength of family bonds, of how much it meant for this particular member to return and join the fold once more. Sometimes, the road back isn't an easy one, Rikishi shared. You've got to step away, learn, grow, and become the person you were always meant to be. And now, after 5 years, they're ready. It's time for this family to take WWE by storm once again. The idea that the Anoa'i family would once again become a central force in WWE felt like a full-circle moment. With Roman Reigns solidifying himself as the tribal chief and the Usos continuing to shine as tag team specialists, the thought of another family member returning after such a long absence was a powerful statement. The legacy was far from over. Speculation and possibilities. As fans began to speculate on who this returning family member could be, several names floated to the surface. Some wondered if it could be the return of someone who had quietly been away, like Lance Anoa'i, a talented wrestler who had trained under WWE's watchful eye. Others pointed to the possibility of a younger cousin of Roman Reigns, someone who had been waiting for the right time to enter the ring and make their presence known. Yet, despite the many guesses, no one could pinpoint the mystery family member for certain. Rikishi's carefully chosen words kept everyone on edge, and the secret only grew more tantalizing with each passing day. One thing was clear: WWE was about to witness an unprecedented family reunion, one that would shake the very foundation of the wrestling world. When the time comes, fans would finally see the true scope of the Anoa'i family's power, a force to be reckoned with in a new era of WWE storytelling. The question on everyone's mind: who was the mystery returnee? And more importantly, how would they help reshape the landscape of the company forever? Until then, the WWE Universe would have to wait and wonder. But one thing was for certain: the Anoa'i family's legacy was alive and well, and it was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Rikishi gives Solo Sikoa a new nickname after pinning Roman Reigns at WWE Crown Jewel 2024. WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi recently commented on Solo Sikoa pinning Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The real-life Bloodline member gave his son a new nickname. Since Reigns' return at SummerSlam, he and Sikoa have been fighting over the Tribal Chief status. Earlier this month, the former NXT North American champion led the Bloodline to defeat the original Tribal Chief and the Usos in a six-man tag team match at Crown Jewel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The square-off ended with the self-proclaimed Tribal Chief pinning the former Universal Champion. On his Rikishi Fatu Off the Top podcast, the Hall of Famer pointed out that the former NXT North American champion pinning Reigns was like, "Okay, you beat the GOAT, now you're considered the GOAT." The wrestling legend gave his 31-year-old son a new nickname, dubbing him the GOAT Slayer. Rikishi thinks Solo Sikoa could dethrone the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes on the same episode of his Rikishi Fatu Off the Top podcast. The Hall of Famer claimed Solo Sikoa could be the one to end Cody Rhodes' undisputed WWE Championship reign. The WWE legend pointed out that although he initially thought Reigns could be the one to accomplish the mission, he can now see his son do it after pinning the GOAT. Solo's a made man. You know, for that to happen, there's definitely we see plans within this kid that, what can be the next level for him. We talked about does he need a belt? Well, after this 1, 2, 3 on Roman, I almost kinda, I can see maybe Solo be the one to take it off of Cody. 'Cause I talked about maybe Roman will come back and take it off of Cody, but after seeing that, you beat the GOAT, he said. Sikoa will probably lead the Bloodline to fight the OG Bloodline at Survivor Series, War Games. It would be interesting to see if he can lead his team to another victory over Reigns and his partners. The 2024 WWE Crown Jewel event in Riyadh had already been billed as one of the most anticipated nights in recent memory. Fans from around the world flocked to the King Saud University Stadium, eager to witness monumental matches, and among them, none was more anticipated than the clash for the undisputed Universal Championship: Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief of the Bloodline, versus Solo Sikoa, his younger cousin and once loyal enforcer. Roman had ruled over WWE with an iron fist for nearly 3 years, but lately, cracks had appeared in the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa, once the silent enforcer standing behind Reigns, had grown restless. The family dynamics were shifting, and Solo was no longer content to play second fiddle. This was the night when everything would change. The tension between Roman and Solo had been building for months, and now, in the grand spotlight of Crown Jewel, it was about to explode. As the lights dimmed and the crowd roared in anticipation, Roman Reigns made his entrance, flanked by Paul Heyman and the Usos. The crowd showered him with boos, but there was a sense of familiarity. Reigns, the king of WWE, was about to defend his crown. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa walked out to his own theme music, his eyes locked on his cousin, a mixture of determination and defiance radiating from him. Tonight, he wasn't just the enforcer, he was here to prove that he was more than Roman's shadow. The match was a brutal display of strength, athleticism, and the raw animosity that had been building between the two. Roman and Solo fought tooth and nail, each trying to assert their dominance. Solo, no longer the loyal sidekick, was a force to be reckoned with. Roman's calculated strikes and submission holds were met with fierce resistance from the young powerhouse. Every time Reigns tried to land a Superman punch or spear, Solo countered, showing off a mixture of agility and power that stunned even the most seasoned WWE fans. For every bit of control Roman tried to assert, Solo found a way to shift the momentum, even going so far as to break out of Roman's submission holds with sheer willpower. It was clear that Solo wasn't just looking to win, he was looking to dethrone his cousin and take his place atop the family tree. But it wasn't just the physical fight that kept the audience on edge, it was the emotional tug of war playing out in the ring. Roman, who had once been the protector of the bloodline, now found himself in a desperate position. Solo had evolved, and Roman had underestimated his cousin's hunger for greatness. The turning point came when Roman, in a moment of overconfidence, went for a spear. Solo dodged at the last second, and the momentum sent Roman crashing into the turnbuckle. As Roman staggered back, Solo seized the moment. He locked in his deadly Samoan submission, a move he had learned from years of watching his family dominate in the ring. The crowd exploded into a frenzy as Solo wrenched the hold tighter, Roman's face contorted in pain. Reigns fought with everything he had, but the weight of the moment was too much. The tension in the stadium reached its peak, and just when it seemed like Roman might escape, Solo delivered a brutal Samoan drop, followed by a spine-shattering pin. The referee's hand slammed the mat once, twice, and then, on the third count, the bell rang. Solo Sikoa had done the unthinkable. He had pinned Roman Reigns and claimed the undisputed Universal Championship. The crowd erupted into a thunderous roar, many still processing the magnitude of what had just happened. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, was no longer the champion. The bloodline, once unified under his rule, was now in a state of disarray. Solo Sikoa had taken the throne, and the world was left in shock. As Solo stood tall in the ring, the championship belt held high above his head, the Usos entered the ring, unsure of how to react. They had supported Roman for years, but now they were faced with the undeniable truth: Solo was the new king. In the midst of the chaos, out came the patriarch of the family, the man who had helped shape both Roman and Solo into the superstars they were today, Rikishi. Rikishi's arrival sent the crowd into a frenzy once again. The legendary Samoan wrestler, a Hall of Famer in his own right, entered the ring with a broad smile on his face. He embraced Solo, proud of the man his son had become. The two shared a heartfelt moment as the WWE Universe looked on in awe. With the championship still draped over Solo's shoulder, Rikishi took the mic. "Tonight, we witnessed the rise of a new champion," he said, his voice booming across the arena. "Solo Sikoa is no longer just the enforcer of the bloodline. He's the king now. The leader of this family. And I'm proud to call him my son." The crowd cheered, but Rikishi wasn't finished. "You see, when you think of a champion, you think of someone who is dominant. Someone who makes you fear them. Someone who can break you. Well, Solo has shown us all that he's more than just an enforcer. He's the next great leader in this family. He's the Samoan submission machine." The crowd's reaction was electric. Solo Sikoa, now the Samoan submission machine, had not only dethroned Roman Reigns, but had also established himself as the new face of the bloodline. The nickname stuck like wildfire, and it immediately became a defining moment in Solo's career. As Rikishi looked at his son with pride, he added, "The bloodline will never be the same again. Because from this day forward, Solo Sikoa isn't just the enforcer, he's the future." Solo raised the title one more time, his gaze locked on the empty space where Roman had once stood. The torch had been passed, and with it came a new chapter in the bloodline saga. The Samoan submission machine had arrived, and there was no telling what he would do next. As the night drew to a close, the WWE Universe was left to wonder, would Solo Sikoa's reign be as dominant as Roman's? Would the rest of the bloodline accept his leadership, or would they challenge him for control? One thing was certain: Solo had made his mark, and the WWE world would never be the same again. Austin Theory mocks Roman Reigns following WWE SmackDown. Teases potential showdown. WWE superstar Austin Theory mocked Roman Reigns in a recent social media post following the latest edition of Friday Night SmackDown. The former Money in the Bank winner has never wrestled the OTC thus far. On the November 8th episode of the Blue Brand show, Theory was expected to accompany his tag team partner on the Grayson Waller effect to welcome the Motor City Machine Guns. However, SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis announced the show had been canceled, and the two teams would compete in a tag team match instead. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley put forth impressive performances to beat the former WWE Tag Team Champions and maintain their unbeaten record since joining the wrestling promotion. Austin Theory recently took to Instagram stories to share a clip of himself sitting in a car alongside Grayson Waller. With fans standing nearby, Theory did the Bloodline's one finger pointing to the sky gesture as the Aussie icon tried to stop him. The 27-year-old was laughing while imitating the tribal chief. Roman Reigns reunited with 40-year-old WWE superstar on SmackDown. WWE superstar Roman Reigns had a crown jewel to forget. He teamed up with the Usos to take on Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga. In a surprising turn of events, Sikoa pinned the OTC to win the match for his team. After the contest ended, as the new Bloodline attacked the original members, Sami Zayn made his way to the squared circle. The former WWE Intercontinental Champion attacked Sikoa and his faction to save his former stablemates. However, things did not go to plan, as he accidentally kicked Roman Reigns in the face. On the latest episode of Friday Night SmackDown, the former stablemates sorted out their differences and stood united to end the show after taking out Sikoa and his men. They are all set to take out Solo Sikoa's Bloodline at Survivor Series War Games later this month. The WWE SmackDown arena buzzed with excitement on a chilly Friday night, the kind of night where anything could happen in the world of sports entertainment. But no one expected what would unfold as the show neared its climax. Austin Theory had been reveling in his own success over the past few weeks, regaining his focus after a string of controversial moments and narrow defeats. Tonight, he was on fire, strutting around the ring with confidence, knowing full well that the eyes of the WWE Universe were trained on him. His smug smile, signature arrogance, and cocky demeanor had fans in a frenzy, some booing, others cheering, but all watching closely to see what would come next. The crowd was already on edge, having witnessed one of the most intense SmackDown episodes in recent memory. Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, had been absent for weeks, dealing with personal matters and avoiding the spotlight after his series of dominant defenses. However, rumors had swirled that Reigns was set to return soon, and WWE fans eagerly awaited his next appearance. As the night wore on, it seemed only fitting that someone would seize the opportunity to stir the pot while the tribal chief was nowhere to be seen. Enter Austin Theory. After a dominant match where he had dispatched a series of opponents, Theory found himself with a microphone in hand, standing in the center of the ring. The camera zoomed in on him, and the boos from the crowd grew louder. Austin Theory, clearly enjoying the moment, soaked in the attention before speaking. "You know, I've been thinking," he began, voice dripping with sarcasm, "we've all been talking about Roman Reigns, right? The so-called tribal chief, the head of the table, the guy who's been holding the Universal Championship for what feels like an eternity. But let me tell you something, I've been listening, and I'm getting real tired of hearing about him." The crowd buzzed with anticipation, knowing where this was headed. "Oh, and don't get me wrong," Theory continued, "Roman Reigns is great, he's really great. But we've all been living in his shadow for too long. And honestly, I think we've seen enough. It's time for a change. It's time for someone new, someone who can actually take this company into the future. Someone who can handle the spotlight. Someone like me." The boos intensified, but Theory's grin only widened. He paced around the ring, clearly feeding off the crowd's reaction. "You see, while Roman's been taking his sweet time on vacation, I've been out here putting in the work, week after week. I've been raising the bar, making this company look good. And you know what? I think I've earned my spot at the top," Theory continued, his tone growing more venomous. "Maybe it's time Roman took a step back and let the next generation take control. Because let's face it, his reign? It's getting stale. A chorus of boos filled the arena as Theory stood tall in the ring, crossing his arms and waiting for the crowd's jeers to subside. There was an unmistakable confidence in his eyes, a glimmer that suggested he wasn't just talking to hear himself speak. Theory's words weren't just those of a man seeking validation. No, they were the words of a man ready to challenge everything Reigns had built. He leaned in closer to the microphone. And I know, people are probably saying, "Oh, Theory, you're too young, you're not ready for Roman Reigns, you don't have what it takes." Well, let me tell you something, I am the future of this company. I am the guy who can end Roman's reign. So, Roman, if you're watching, I want you to listen real closely. I'm not just calling you out, I'm challenging you. I'm coming for that title. And when I beat you, I'm going to take my place at the head of the table, because this is my time. It's time for Austin Theory to reign supreme. The crowd went wild, but not in the way Theory might have hoped. The boos only grew louder, with fans chanting no. No. No, in response. It was clear that many in the WWE universe didn't see Theory as a legitimate threat to Roman Reigns, but that didn't bother him. He had a plan. Just as Theory began to bask in the chaos he had created, a video package appeared on the screen, displaying highlights of Roman Reigns' storied career, his battles, his dominance, his unyielding control over the WWE. The package played for a full minute, reminding everyone of the legacy Reigns had built. But just as the video came to an end, the screen flickered. Static consumed the image, and then the unmistakable sound of a tribal drum echoed through the arena. The crowd erupted as the familiar theme music of Roman Reigns hit, signaling his arrival. The atmosphere shifted instantly, and fans stood to their feet. However, it wasn't Roman Reigns who stepped through the curtains. Instead, it was Solo Sikoa, Reigns' enforcer and a member of the Bloodline, who emerged from the backstage area, flanked by a group of WWE officials. The crowd's excitement quickly turned into confusion. Sikoa stood at the top of the ramp, looking at Theory with an expression of utter disdain. He wasn't moving, but his presence alone was enough to let everyone know that a showdown between the two was inevitable. Theory stared back at Sikoa, unfazed. "What, you think this is going to stop me? You think you can intimidate me with your little bodyguard act? You're going to have to do better than that." Sikoa took a step forward, his stoic demeanor not changing for a moment. Theory's eyes narrowed. "Where's your tribal chief, huh? Why isn't he here? I guess he's too scared to come face me, huh?" But just as the tension seemed ready to boil over, the Titantron flashed again, this time with a new message. Roman Reigns' face appeared on the screen, his cold eyes piercing through the camera. The WWE Universe gasped as Reigns spoke. "You think you're ready for me, kid?" Reigns' voice was calm, but there was an undeniable authority in his tone. "You have no idea what it takes to be the head of the table. You're playing a dangerous game. But don't worry, when I return, I'll be happy to teach you the hard way." The screen cut to black, and the arena fell into a stunned silence. Theory stood alone in the ring, staring at the empty ramp, his grin slowly fading as the reality of the situation sank in. He had made his challenge, but Roman Reigns wasn't going to let it slide easily. The tease was set. The tension between Austin Theory and Roman Reigns had only just begun, and fans everywhere were left eagerly anticipating what could be a colossal showdown between the brash young star and the dominant tribal chief. As SmackDown went off the air, one thing was clear: Austin Theory had just ignited a firestorm, and Roman Reigns would be waiting to see if he could truly back up his words. Rikishi reveals which bloodline he is backing in the Civil War amid War Games announcement. Rikishi has revealed which version of the bloodline he is backing in the Civil War between both groups. On SmackDown, the War Games match between the OG bloodline and the new iteration of the group was announced by the commentators, but no specifics have been provided. The new-look bloodline began to take shape on SmackDown after WrestleMania 40 when Solo Sikoa kicked Jimmy Uso out of the faction and replaced him with Tama Tonga. Within the next few weeks, Tanga Loa and Jacob Fatu also joined the group. On Instagram, Rikishi shared a photo of him sporting the OG Bloodline's new merchandise, revealing which side he was backing, along with a message. Jimmy USO introduced the shirt at the Bad Blood Premium Live event when he assisted Reigns and Cody Rhodes in beating Sikoa and Fatu in a tag team match. Rikishi believes Jacob Fatu will betray Solo Sikoa. Rikishi believes Jacob Fatu will eventually betray Solo Sikoa and turn babyface. The Samoan Werewolf debuted as the fourth and latest member of the Bloodline on the June 21st edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Speaking on the Off the Top podcast, the Hall of Famer predicted that Fatu would get over with the WWE Universe upon a potential face turn. He said that a time would come when the Samoan Werewolf would snap at the rest of the stable and betray them, turning babyface in the process. Jacob's going to snap one day on these guys, Bloodline. When they show his eyes, when they show his hands together, man, he's praying to Solo, or he's just praying that he don't relapse. I don't mess this up with these cats right here. Once Jacob turns man, I think the Samoan Werewolf is gonna have the whole arena just howling man, he said. At the recently concluded Crown Jewel Premium Live event, the new Bloodline was victorious over the OG Bloodline with Solo Sikoa pinning Roman Reigns. Post-match, Sami Zayn came to his former stablemate's aid but accidentally hit the OTC with a hell of a kick. This week on SmackDown, Sikoa ordered Zayn to hit Reigns with another hell of a kick. However, Zayn swerved and hit the new Tribal Chief with his finisher. The show ended with the four members of the OG Bloodline throwing up the ones. The air was thick with tension as fans packed into the arena, the feeling of a seismic shift in WWE's universe palpable. Rumors had been swirling for weeks, ever since the Bloodline started to splinter. The undisputed dominance that Roman Reigns once held over the WWE Universe now seemed fragile, and everyone from fans to fellow superstars had been wondering which side would Rikishi, one of the founding members of the Bloodline, support in this brutal civil war? The night before War Games, the scene was set. The announcement of the match itself had sent shockwaves through the WWE locker room, as War Games had historically been a battleground for only the most bitter of rivalries. And now, with two factions of the Bloodline at odds, it was only fitting that the two sides would clash inside the steel structure that had seen so many legends come face to face with their destiny. The crowd was electric, buzzing with anticipation as the show began. The main event was announced. Roman Reigns, the head of the table, would lead his faction of the Bloodline against JUSO, the prodigal son turned rebel, and his alliance, with both sides preparing to battle in War Games. But despite all the chaos, one question remained unanswered: where did Rikishi stand? For weeks, fans had speculated. Would he side with his eldest son, the once loyal but now defiant JUSO, or would he stay behind Roman Reigns, who had once been the undisputed leader of the Bloodline? There was no word from Rikishi himself, and his silence only intensified the questions. Finally, the night arrived, and the arena went dark, signaling the arrival of one of the most iconic figures in wrestling history, Rikishi. His music hit, and the crowd erupted into a thunderous cheer. Rikishi, with his trademark dance moves, made his way to the ring, the unmistakable aura of a legend surrounding him. He stepped into the squared circle, microphone in hand, and the crowd fell silent. Rikishi, a man who had always been about family, stood tall, his emotions mixed. He had always been one to stand by his family, to support his blood. But now, with everything on the line, he had to make a choice. Tonight, Rikishi began, his voice calm but filled with undeniable intensity. I stand before you, not just as a member of the Bloodline, but as a father. A father who has seen his sons grow into men, who have made their own paths, their own choices. And I will never turn my back on them. The crowd watched in rapt attention, unsure of where this speech was headed. Rikishi's words had always carried weight, but tonight, it felt as though they were more important than ever. But sometimes, he continued, a father must step back and let his sons fight their battles. Tonight, this is not about me. This is about my sons. And I will always support them, no matter what. But I also know the stakes. This isn't just about family, it's about legacy. A hush fell over the arena as Rikishi paused. The weight of his next words hung in the air like a storm cloud, ready to unleash. That's why, after everything that has happened, after all the betrayal and broken trust, I'm backing the one who knows what it means to fight for his place. The one who has earned his position, even when the odds were against him. And that's why, when the dust settles in War Games, my support will go to JUSO. The crowd erupted into a mix of shock and awe. Rikishi, the patriarch of the bloodline, had chosen sides. But the surprising part was that it wasn't Roman Reigns, the man who had long been considered the undisputed leader of their family. It was JUSO, the man who had defied Roman and now stood at the head of a new rebellion. The man who, in Rikishi's eyes, had proven himself time and time again. Rikishi's voice grew softer, tinged with emotion. I've seen the man my son has become. I've seen him grow, fight, and challenge what was supposed to be his destiny. But in doing so, he's created his own path. And I couldn't be prouder. Jay, I've got your back. I always have, and I always will. For a moment, it seemed as though Rikishi was done. But then, with a sudden change in his tone, he turned his attention to Roman Reigns. Roman, you've been a leader, and I've supported you. But what you've done to my son, what you've done to our family, it's more than I can overlook. I don't recognize the man who has taken things too far. I don't recognize the man who's lost sight of what it means to be family. And for that, I'm done standing behind you. Rikishi threw the microphone down, his decision made. The crowd stood in stunned silence as his words reverberated throughout the arena. As Rikishi exited the ring, the camera cut to the backstage area, where JUSO stood in the shadows, watching his father's declaration. His face was stoic, but a flicker of gratitude shone in his eyes. The fight was no longer just a battle for dominance within the bloodline, it was a fight for respect, for legacy, and for family. Jay knew that tonight's War Games match would be the most important of his life, but with his father's support, he was more determined than ever to prove himself. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns, who had been watching from his private locker room, clenched his fists. The revelation that his father had turned his back on him was a bitter pill to swallow. But Roman was Roman, he would never let this defeat him. Instead, it would fuel him. The stage was set for a brutal war, and Roman was ready to remind the WWE Universe who the true head of the table was, no matter who stood against him. As the weeks passed leading up to War Games, the stakes only grew higher. The bloodline had been fractured, and the question of who would come out on top remained unanswered. Would Roman Reigns prove his dominance, or would JUSO rise to the occasion and lead his faction to victory? In the end, it wasn't just about winning the War Games match. It was about family, legacy, and the brutal choices that come with it. Rikishi had made his decision, and now, the rest of the bloodline would have to deal with the consequences. The war was just beginning, and it was clear that no one would be spared. As for Rikishi, he had spoken his truth. His allegiance was clear, and it was with his son, JUSO. Only time would tell whether this move would ignite a new era of dominance or plunge the bloodline into chaos beyond repair. The real tribal chief controlling Solo Sikoa has seemingly been revealed on WWE SmackDown. Solo Sikoa has his own bloodline at his disposal, and it seems that he has already proved that he can pin Roman Reigns in WWE if needed. This week on SmackDown, it was made clear that the two bloodlines are about to go to war at Survivor Series. As part of the segment, it seems that Solo Sikoa could have dropped a huge hint regarding who is really behind his recent actions in WWE. Sikoa has been pushing his new regime since WrestleMania, and it seems that it could have been The Rock who was behind his change of attitude. Sikoa even dressed as The Rock this week on SmackDown, adding to speculation that the Great One is the real tribal chief of this bloodline. Solo Sikoa also made it clear that their match would be a 5-on-5 tag team match, which means that there could be another member joining Sikoa's team. At present, the only person who would make sense would be The Rock. The Rock would be the perfect addition to Solo Sikoa's WWE team. The Rock is clearly mad about Roman Reigns' loss at WrestleMania, which could have been why he pushed Solo Sikoa to go against his family and create a bloodline that doesn't suffer these kinds of losses. Reigns has reformed his bloodline, and now the Usos and Sami Zayn will be on his team at Survivor Series. But it's unclear if there is another family member who can be recalled to make up the numbers if there are 5 men needed for the match. The Rock is busy on his press tour for Red One, so it's unclear if he will be able to appear at Survivor Series and unveil himself as the tribal chief who has been behind this version of the bloodline all along. The WWE Universe has been on edge for weeks as tensions within the bloodline have reached unprecedented heights. After Roman Reigns, the undisputed tribal chief, took a back seat following a series of shocking betrayals, it seemed as if his reign was on the verge of crumbling. But in a jaw-dropping revelation on WWE SmackDown, the real tribal chief has come to light, and it's not who fans expected. For months, Solo Sikoa, the enforcer of the bloodline, has been growing in power and prominence. With Roman Reigns mysteriously absent from television, Solo's dominance in the ring and his silent yet ominous presence hinted at something more beneath the surface. Despite the bloodline's cracks showing with Jey Uso's departure and the friction between Jimmy Uso and Roman, Solo remained a constant fixture, loyal and deadly. But loyalty is a complex thing. Solo Sikoa, the youngest of the Anoa'i family, has always carried the weight of his heritage on his shoulders. Yet, in the past few weeks, his actions have been more ambiguous. The tension between Solo and his cousins, the Usos, has been simmering, but there was something else, an unspoken force that seemed to drive Solo's every move. It wasn't just about keeping the peace or serving Roman Reigns anymore. It was about something bigger, and on SmackDown, it was about to come to the forefront. The night began innocently enough, with Solo Sikoa appearing in a backstage segment, offering his usual cold stare to anyone who crossed his path. His presence was ominous, as usual, but there was something different. Something was off. Jimmy Uso, now a face of sorts, was heading into the arena, preparing for his match. His mind was clearly on his brother, Jey, but his eyes kept darting toward Solo, as if he were waiting for something to happen. The opening match of the night featured Jimmy Uso facing off against a top SmackDown superstar in a high-stakes contest. The match was intense, and as the momentum shifted back and forth, Jimmy appeared to have the upper hand. But the lights suddenly flickered, casting a strange atmosphere across the arena. Fans murmured, unsure of what was happening, until the sound of a familiar voice echoed through the speakers. "Is this what you really want, Jimmy?" The voice was unmistakable. It was the voice. The one that had ruled over the bloodline for years. Roman Reigns. But the voice wasn't coming from the Titantron. It was coming from somewhere else in the arena, somewhere closer to the action. Suddenly, the camera panned to Solo Sikoa, standing at the top of the ramp, his eyes locked on Jimmy Uso with a gaze so intense it sent a chill through the crowd. The music stopped. The lights returned to normal. And there, standing in front of the WWE Universe, was the biggest revelation of the night. Solo Sikoa wasn't just the enforcer of the bloodline. He wasn't just Roman's loyal right-hand man. He was, in fact, the one pulling the strings. Solo stepped into the ring, his imposing presence undeniable. But he didn't approach Jimmy directly. Instead, he took his time, as if savoring the moment, letting the realization sink in for the audience. Fans began to murmur, piecing together the clues. Solo had been growing in stature. He'd been the one to guide Jimmy and Jey when Roman wasn't around. He'd been the one to ensure the smooth running of the bloodline, and now it all made sense. Roman Reigns hadn't just gone silent, he had handed the reins to his younger cousin, the true tribal chief, to carry out his will. "Solo, you've been controlling this entire thing?" Jimmy Uso's voice cracked, disbelief taking over. "But Roman, he's the king. And I am the hand," Solo said, his words cutting through the tension like a knife. His voice was cold, but there was a calculated power in it, a power that had been building for months. "Roman Reigns is the blood that courses through this family. But I am the muscle. The true power. The one who ensures this empire runs." It was a bold claim, and the SmackDown crowd was in disbelief. How had no one seen it coming? Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, had always been the face of the bloodline. But as fans looked back at Solo's actions over the last few weeks, it was all too clear. Solo had been orchestrating everything from behind the scenes, manipulating events, and ensuring that his cousins, Jimmy and Jay, stayed in line. Solo's calm and collected demeanor contrasted sharply with Jimmy's growing frustration. "You lied to me," Jimmy yelled, shaking his head. "All this time, you had me thinking I was just part of a family. You made me turn on my brother. You made me think you were loyal to Roman. But this whole time, you were working to take control." Solo's eyes narrowed as he approached Jimmy, towering over him. "Family means everything to me, Jimmy. But I've learned something that you haven't. Loyalty? It's a word. A meaningless word if you don't control the power behind it." The crowd erupted in mixed reactions: shock, confusion, and excitement. But before Jimmy could respond, Solo delivered a brutal Samoan drop, slamming him to the canvas. The sound echoed through the arena, but the real shock was yet to come. Solo stood over Jimmy, raising his hand high in the air as the arena fell silent. The air was thick with anticipation. Then, out of nowhere, Roman Reigns' music hit. But it wasn't just Roman. He appeared, yes, but something was different. There was a subtle smile on his face as he stepped into the ring, but it was clear he wasn't there to reassert his dominance. He was there to acknowledge Solo. Roman raised his microphone and spoke, his words carrying weight. "For years, I've been the tribal chief. But there comes a time when you pass the mantle. Solo, you've earned your place. You are the real power of the bloodline. I have only one question for you." Solo met Roman's gaze, and the arena held its breath. "Do you accept your true destiny?" Without hesitation, Solo nodded. "I accept it. And I will carry the legacy of our family with pride." The SmackDown crowd erupted in a frenzy, unsure of what to make of the shocking turn of events. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, had not been ousted, he had passed the torch. But what did this mean for the bloodline? For the future of WWE? And most importantly, what would happen to Jimmy Uso now that the real tribal chief had taken control? The revelation had set the stage for a new era in WWE. An era ruled not by the blood of the family, but by the muscle, the enforcer, and the true power. Solo Sikoa had claimed his place in history, and with Roman Reigns at his side, the bloodline had never been more dangerous. The real tribal chief had been revealed, and WWE would never be the same again. WWE legend Rikishi pitches a new signature gimmick match for the bloodline. Involves 3 rings together. Solo Sikoa and his bloodline shocked the world when they pinned Roman Reigns to pick up the biggest victory of their current run at WWE Crown Jewel 2024. This came after Solo and Jacob Fatu lost a tag match against Roman and Cody Rhodes previously at Bad Blood. Though the tribal chief and his faction have been portrayed to be quite dominant on SmackDown over the past few months, the reunion of Roman Reigns and the Usos was not expected to be welcomed with a massive loss. Addressing the massive surprise in a recent episode of the Off the Top podcast, WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi stated that he expected the match to end in a disqualification rather than any team picking a victory. "I had no idea, I didn't even think either team was gonna win. I would have probably thought it would have been a DQ, stated Rikishi, 23-20 onwards, further addressing the exciting storyline. The veteran added that the Bloodline should get a special gimmick match of their own, representing a unique premium live event, which would make them a much bigger attraction. Sending out possible ideas, the Hall of Famer stated a special dome or 3 rings together, which would undoubtedly be massive, a headline maker on its own. Give them something that people has never ever seen before. That's what the Bloodline is, because that's what they're doing out there. They're giving the wrestling fans something that they've never seen amongst each other, and the fans continue invested into the Bloodline. So, let's go ahead and up it. Why don't we call a different type of, make up a pay-per-view name for the Bloodline to be able to have their own type of signature match, like Hell in the Cell? Let's put 3 rings together. Let's build a certain type of dome for 3 rings, and then you think about you got all that talent that you got the Usos, Jacob Fatu, the Tongans, and Roman. Come on now, there's so much that those boys can do with a gimmick type of match like that, added the Hall of Famer, 2357 onwards. Will WWE add a special twist to the War Games match for the Bloodline? With the recent developments in the intriguing Bloodline story, it is clear that a massive War Games match is being set between both factions. The OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline seems to be the current plan for Survivor Series War Games. However, with both teams consisting of 4 members currently, it is uncertain if WWE would make a change to their marquee War Games match. Switching the tradition from 5 members per team to 4 per team would make a number of headlines. Fans will have to wait and see what WWE has in store for the faction. As WWE continues to evolve, so does the need for innovative and high-stakes match types. One WWE legend, Rikishi, known for his iconic wrestling career and his legacy as a member of the Samoan dynasty, is ready to take things to the next level. During a recent interview, the former WWE Intercontinental Champion and member of the Bloodline pitched a brand new, signature match that he believes could perfectly embody the intensity and pride of the Samoan family legacy. This match, which Rikishi calls Triple Ring Tribal Warfare, would incorporate 3 rings, multiple teams, and a visceral clash for supremacy. Rikishi is no stranger to unique match concepts, having been involved in memorable moments such as the infamous Hell in a Cell match and the Royal Rumble match that defined an era. With Triple Ring Tribal Warfare, however, he aims to revolutionize the way factions clash in WWE. Here's a breakdown of the concept and why Rikishi believes it could be the next big thing for the Bloodline. The concept, 3 rings, 1 family at its core, Triple Ring Tribal Warfare is designed to showcase the Bloodline's dominance, but it also promises to bring out the savage instincts of every member involved. The match will take place inside a WWE ring setup that features 3 adjacent rings, with each ring representing a different part of the Bloodline's hierarchy. 1. Ring 1, the Foundation Ring. This ring is dedicated to the top-tier members of the Bloodline, symbolizing the past, present, and future of the Samoan family. The tribal chiefs, Roman Reigns, and perhaps even the legendary Rikishi himself, will be involved in this section. In this ring, wrestlers will battle for control of their legacy. A battle royal-style format might ensue, where only the strongest survive to advance to the next stage. 2. Ring 2, the Legacy Ring. This is where the younger generation of the Bloodline takes center stage. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa will clash, representing the future and strength of the family. In this section, competitors must fight for dominance, but what makes this ring different is that the participants will be involved in multi-man bouts and tag team action. This section might see a series of eliminations based on pinfalls, submissions, and even strategic team alliances, all while keeping the chaotic nature of the Bloodline intact. 3. Ring 3, the Warriors Ring. The final ring is dedicated to the full chaos of the match. This section is meant for the most brutal battles. No disqualifications. No mercy. Think of it as a war zone. Members of the Bloodline, such as the legendary Rikishi himself, could take part in this section, alongside high-profile WWE superstars eager to dethrone the empire that the Bloodline represents. It's a no-holds-barred ring, where weapons, brutal finishes, and surprise twists are bound to unfold. While all 3 rings are involved, each area operates with its own set of rules, but the ultimate goal is to control all 3. Whoever dominates the entirety of Triple Ring Tribal Warfare claims supremacy over the Bloodline. The rules of Triple Ring Tribal Warfare are unique, mixing elements of traditional battle royals, tag team matches, and hardcore brawls. Here's how the match unfolds. 1. Elimination-style format. All participants in the 3 rings will start at the same time. Each competitor is vying for control of their designated section, but elimination can occur in any of the rings. The goal is simple: survive long enough to eliminate as many competitors as possible. 2. Triangular alliances. Since the Bloodline is a family faction, the match allows for temporary alliances between its members, but trust will be tested. Members of the family must prove their loyalty, but betrayal could also be a part of the strategy. Team-ups could lead to explosive moments, especially between Roman Reigns and his cousins Jay and Jimmy Uso, or even Solo Sikoa. 3. Weapons and chaos. Triple ring tribal warfare * will allow all-out chaos, with each ring accessible to chairs, kendo sticks, and other weapons. While the main focus is on the Bloodline, rival factions or rebellious superstars could enter to disrupt the family's dominance, creating a high-stakes, unpredictable battle. 4. The ultimate victory. To win triple ring tribal warfare, one superstar must dominate all 3 rings. This is no easy task. Participants will need to either incapacitate every competitor in each ring or be the last remaining family member standing. After the match ends, the winning superstar gets to decide what happens to the Bloodline. They could challenge Roman Reigns for his Universal title or declare themselves the new leader of the family. Why it's perfect for the Bloodline. Rikishi's proposal of triple ring tribal warfare plays into the Bloodline's ongoing storyline by allowing them to fight in their own family's epic battleground. The Bloodline has already become a cornerstone of WWE storytelling, with Roman Reigns leading the charge as the tribal chief. But as family drama and dissent continue to stir within the faction, this match could provide the perfect stage for a family feud to escalate to unimaginable heights. Rikishi has seen firsthand the intensity and pride that runs through the Bloodline. From his own legacy in the ring to his connection with his sons, the Usos, and his nephews, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, triple ring tribal warfare would be the ultimate test of loyalty, dominance, and tribal pride. In his pitch, he envisions the match culminating with an epic showdown for the ultimate respect of the family. It's about more than just physicality, it's about proving who the real leader is. The family isn't just about bloodlines, it's about who can outlast the others. It's time to show the world what it means to be a true member of the Bloodline, said Rikishi during the interview. The future. While triple ring tribal warfare is still a concept, Rikishi's pitch has ignited interest in the wrestling world. The match type has the potential to be a game-changer in WWE, not just for the Bloodline but for the entire roster. It could serve as a grand culmination of family rivalries, as well as elevate lesser-known superstars to legendary status by making a name for themselves in this brutal environment. The possibilities for storytelling are endless. Could the Usos break away from Roman Reigns' rule? Will Solo Sikoa finally rebel against his cousins? Could Rikishi step back into the ring to defend his family's honor? Triple ring tribal warfare could easily be WWE's most intriguing new match type, one that blends family dynamics with high-octane action and high-stakes drama. As of now, fans are eagerly awaiting what will come next for the Bloodline. With Rikishi's signature match potentially on the horizon, WWE may just be ready to add another classic to its history. The Bloodline's reign, and its ultimate fate, could be forever changed in the chaos of triple ring tribal warfare. Watch, Roman Reigns exchanges merchandise with top UFC star on WWE SmackDown. Roman Reigns' return to WWE pushed the Bloodline saga ahead on Friday Night SmackDown. This week's episode of The Blue Brand was live from Buffalo, New York, and hosted many athletes from different sports, including the current UFC light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira. The MMA fighter was seen interacting with the original tribal chief backstage, and the two exchanged merch. Earlier this year, Roman Reigns made an earth-shattering return at SummerSlam and confronted Solo Sikoa. The original tribal chief has made his presence felt since the return and feuding with the Bloodline on Friday Night SmackDown. However, Reigns is one of the biggest stars in the company, and talent from other sports is aware of him and his work in the Stamford-based promotion. On the latest edition of Friday Night SmackDown, the current UFC light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira, was in attendance. Later, a video was released showing the champion interacting with Roman Reigns, and the two stars exchanged their merchandise backstage. The footage was screen-grabbed from Pereira's Instagram stories. Roman Reigns reconciled with Sami Zayn on WWE SmackDown last year, Sami Zayn turned his back on the bloodline after he refused to attack Kevin Owens with a steel chair at WWE Royal Rumble 2023. Instead, he attacked Reigns with the chair. Following his exit from the faction, Zayn and Reigns feuded over the undisputed WWE title, where Reigns successfully defended the title Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber in Canada. After WrestleMania 39, the former honorary USO teamed up with Owens to defeat the OTC and Solo Sikoa in a tag team match in Saudi Arabia. Following his return at SummerSlam, Reigns was outnumbered by the Bloodline. Jimmy USO returned at Bad Blood to reunite with his cousin, and in recent weeks, Jey USO also decided to team up with the OTC to put an end to Solo Sikoa's faction. At the 2024 Crown Jewel, Zayn accidentally hit Reigns with a Helluva Kick. On this week's Raw, Jey USO invited his former stablemate to SmackDown and tried to hash it out with the original Tribal Chief and Jimmy USO. In the closing moment of this week's SmackDown, Solo Sikoa preemptively announced that Zayn had joined him instead of Roman Reigns. However, the former Intercontinental Champion delivered a Helluva Kick to Solo and reunited with Reigns against Sikoa's bloodline for Survivor Series, War Games 2024 in Canada. The lights dimmed as the familiar pulsating beat of Roman Reigns' entrance music echoed through the arena, sending the fans into an uproar. The Tribal Chief was here, and as always, his presence dominated the SmackDown stage. Roman emerged from behind the curtain, his cold eyes scanning the arena, the Universal Championship draped across his shoulder as though it were a mere accessory. The boos and cheers mixed into a cacophony of noise, but Roman was used to it. He held himself high, walking to the ring with an air of superiority that only a champion could carry. But tonight, something felt different. As Roman entered the squared circle, the audience knew something monumental was about to unfold. His longtime advocate, Paul Heyman, stood beside him, a silent figure in the shadows as Roman took center stage. There was an unusual tension in the air, a sense that something was brewing behind the scenes. The Tribal Chief's microphone crackled to life, and he raised it to his lips. SmackDown, Roman's voice boomed, resonating through the arena, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion has arrived. And tonight, it's not just about me. No, tonight is about a special moment. The crowd fell silent, eagerly anticipating what Roman had in mind. You see, Roman continued, pacing around the ring with purpose, in the world of combat sports, there's one name that stands above the rest, someone who's built an empire of his own. He's the king of his domain, just like I am in mine. Tonight, I'm here to show respect to a legend, a man who transcends his sport. At that moment, the lights cut out again, and the crowd erupted in anticipation. The unmistakable sound of a heavy fist striking a UFC punching bag rang out from the speakers, followed by the beat of music that was unmistakable to any combat sports fan. It was none other than the notorious Conor McGregor. The crowd exploded as the UFC megastar made his way down the ramp. Wearing his trademark tailored suit and a smirk that could cut through steel, Conor strutted down the ramp, his gaze locked on Roman Reigns. The energy in the arena reached a fever pitch as these two titans of their respective sports faced off in the ring for the first time ever. Roman, Conor said, holding up a hand as he entered the ring. I've heard a lot about you, mate. You're the king of this place. But I know you know who I am, too. Roman nodded slowly, his steely gaze never leaving Conor's face. You're damn right I know who you are, Roman said, his voice low but filled with authority. You've made a name for yourself. You're a legend in your own right. And I'm here tonight to give you the same respect that I give to the greatest warriors of this world. Conor smiled, clearly enjoying the compliment. He stepped forward and extended his hand. The crowd went wild as Roman looked at it for a moment, contemplating. Then, with a grin of his own, Roman shook his hand firmly, signifying mutual respect. Tonight, we're not just two champions from different worlds, Roman continued. Tonight, we're two stars exchanging something more valuable than any championship or title, respect. Conor chuckled. Respect, That's all well and good, Roman. But I'm not here just for respect. I came to make a statement. The crowd held its breath, wondering what Conor was getting at. I heard you talking about being the tribal chief, Conor said, his voice laced with both humor and venom. But let me tell you something. I don't care what tribe you come from. In my world, we don't bow to anyone. We fight. We fight until there's no one left standing. So, I came here to offer you something, Roman. An exchange. Roman raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by the idea of a trade with the UFC superstar. You see, Conor said, reaching into his bag, I brought something special with me. A little something for you to take back to your world. I've got my own merchandise here, mate. Just like you've got your t-shirts, your belts, your merchandise, I'm here to give you a taste of what the real world is all about. Conor pulled out a sleek, black McGregor Notorious hoodie from his bag, tossing it to Roman. The audience erupted into applause as Roman caught it effortlessly, holding it up to his chest. I'm not sure it's your size, Roman, but you can try it on, Conor said, his voice dripping with confidence. Roman smirked, taking the hoodie and eyeing it as though it were some kind of challenge. But he wasn't about to back down. He turned to Paul Heyman, who stood quietly off to the side, nodding subtly as if to approve the moment. All right, Roman said, his voice low but with a hint of a grin. I'll wear your hoodie, McGregor. But only because you deserve that respect. But I've got something for you, too. Roman turned to one of the staff at ringside and signaled them to bring out a custom WWE Universal Championship replica with Conor's name emblazoned across it. The crowd gasped in awe, and McGregor raised an eyebrow as the belt was handed to Roman, who held it up proudly. This, Roman said, is the belt of the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. I've held it for years, and it's been earned with every battle, every war. And tonight, I give it to you, McGregor. As a symbol of respect between us. Conor took the belt with both hands, his expression turning serious as he examined the gold and leather, clearly impressed by the weight of the title. This, Roman, this is what it's all about, Conor said, his eyes gleaming with admiration. Respect. But don't think for a second that this is a gift. We'll see what happens when you and I step into the octagon. Because in my world, we don't shake hands and swap gifts. We fight. Roman nodded, handing Conor the belt, then threw his new Notorious hoodie over his shoulder, standing tall in front of the UFC superstar. The crowd cheered at the rare exchange between two icons of combat sports, both now linked by a mutual respect that could only be earned through dominance in their respective arenas. The two men stared each other down, a fleeting moment of understanding passing between them, before Conor gave a sly grin. Take care of that belt, Roman. I've got my own. But one day, maybe you'll see me in the octagon. Until then, we'll see who the real king is. Roman simply nodded, turning his back to the UFC megastar and walking toward the ropes, his hand still clutching the McGregor hoodie. I don't need to fight you in the octagon, Conor, Roman said, his voice loud enough for the whole arena to hear. I'm the king of the WWE. And no one's taking that from me. As Roman left the ring, the audience continued to cheer, their excitement buzzing through the air. The unexpected meeting between the UFC legend and WWE's tribal chief had electrified the crowd, leaving them wondering, would this be the beginning of something more? A showdown between two of the most dominant forces in combat sports, or just a fleeting moment of respect between titans? Only time would tell, but one thing was clear, SmackDown would never be the same again.